water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, television programs used to live in peace. But then everything changed when Iman started watching this stuff.
This fucking sucks.
Only his parents, the people capable of putting him on ADHD medication as a kid to have him not watch too much TV shows, could stop him. But when the world needed them most, they vanished. Years later, Iman and his brother discovered a new show called Legend of Korra. And although the show can be good at times, it's lacking in a lot to be an actual good show. And lots of people think Legend of Korra is a good show, but I believe that Iman can change your mind. My parents didn't actually abandon me and my brother. It's just when we were really young, they got in a really bad divorce and it lasted a while. But we're not talking about that today. Today we're talking about the Legend of Korra. So a lot of people will see the tattoo that's on the back of my calf, and then they'll say like, oh, you must like Avatar, The Last Airbender. And I say, yes, that is in fact my favorite show. And then they say, so you must also like The Legend of Korra. And then I say, no, I don't like that show. And then they're always like, what? Why? To explain why I don't like Korra would take so long. Because of my tattoo, I have that conversation like every month. And so I just decided to make this video, and then I'll just send them this video, and if they cared enough about my opinion, they would watch it. And if they didn't watch it, well then I don't care what they think. All right, here's what I'm not gonna talk about today. I'm not gonna talk about today the animation, because I already did that in a whole separate video. So if you wanna go watch that, you can. And I'm also not going to talk about season 2 of Legend of Korra, because I think season 1, 3, and 4 are not good enough of as it is for me to make my case, and I don't think I need to include season 2. Plus, we all know season 2 is bad. Everybody knows season 2 is the bad. It's like the Spider-Man 3 of the Legend of Korra seasons. You know, there was some network sabotaging going on. We all know that. Before we do that though, I'm gonna say all the things that I do like about Legend of Korra, because, you know, sometimes someone will be like, well, what about this? Wasn't this good? And I'm like, yeah, that was good, but it doesn't make everything good. Okay, anyways, let's start with season 1. I really like season 1 of Legend of Korra because I think it's actually a pretty decent season. I like a lot of the characters they introduce. I like Korra's character. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself because in my video before this, I said that Korra was a bad person, and she is. That's the point of season 1. Season 1, she's not a great avatar.
You're using your power to oppress and intimidate people.
And you don't?
Of course not.
The only thing she's good at is she's good at bending, and she thinks because she's so good at bending that she's automatically a good avatar. And she learns in that season that you can't solve all your problems by chucking rocks and fire at it. Sometimes you have to look within yourself. And then once she realizes that, you know, towards the end of season 1, she becomes a more accepting, open-minded person. So I think that's a really good arc for her. And, you know, if you don't count season 2, season 3 starts with Korra being that person. She starts off by helping someone, you know, not unalive themselves, and she's like, hey, you don't have to do this, let me talk to you. And she solves the problem without throwing any rocks at it. I like her character. Other characters I like include, I love Bolin, I think he's great. Tenzin is an amazing character. I love Lin. I just really like in television, like really scary women that are like super good at their jobs. I think that's a really cool TV trope. I love Jinora. Jinora is basically, they just took Hermione from Harry Potter and made her an airbender. And I'm not a Harry Potter fan, just so you guys know, I am a Hermione fan. She does everything, come on. I don't think I forgot anyone. Oh, Asami, I like Asami. And not to mention the villain of season 1, every time he's on screen, the scene is terrifying. And not because I think, oh, someone's gonna die. It's because you think, oh my God, someone's gonna get their bending taken away, which in the show Avatar would be worse than death. I mean, they kind of dropped the ball when they had to wrap up season 1 really, really quickly because, you know, Nickelodeon screwed them over. But whatever, I like season 1. And speaking of villains, that's why I like season 3 so much as well, because they have the most interesting villains on screen. Finally, I like that we got, you know, gay Kora at the end of season 4.
Wanna sit with me for a minute? I'm not ready to get back to the party just yet.
Finally, I like the Deus Ex Machina at the end of Legend of Korra is, you know, Korra is about to unalive herself because she lost her other 3 bendings. and she's about to jump off the cliff and end it all when Aang shows up and he's like, hey, you actually called me here. You unlocked your spirit thing and I'm here for you. And then he gives her the bending back. And then as an audience, I was like, oh my God, I forgot that the Avatar can do that. And we all know he can do that because we've all seen it in the previous show. So you're like, of course, this is where it was all leading up. And it actually makes more sense because in the Avatar The Last Airbender one, that came out of nowhere. I mean, you could argue that it was actually set up because the lion turtle showed him how to do it, but he literally showed him how to do it the moment before he fought the Fire Lord, so it doesn't count. Wow, that was a lot of good stuff about the Legend of Korra that you just said. How can you possibly make a case now of not liking? Here's all the things I don't like about Legend of Korra. Let's start with the beginning of season 1. So you're watching season 1, right? And you're seeing all this cool stuff. Whoa, Korra leaves her home to go to Republic City. Republic City is hustling and bustling. She meets these 2 guys, she gets on a team, and cool. And you're like, okay, that's a pretty sweet setup. You saw the group that they're gonna fight against. And then, you know, this happens.
Mako told me so much about you.
Really? Because he hasn't mentioned you at all.
As much as you drive me crazy, I also think you're pretty amazing.
So, you do like me?
Do you have feelings for Kora or not?
Look, things are crazy right now. Can we deal with our relationship problems later?
This is the first time the show went from being kind of like a fun children's period piece type kung fu show into being a teen drama. And there's nothing wrong with that because a lot of the kids who watched it from a young age, you know, the sequel came out years later, they're all teenagers. So it's like, yeah, of course, it's gonna kind of look more like this. And to be fair, the first show never dealt with romance in a good way either, but it didn't do stuff like this. I get that Korra's storyline is supposed to be like, he just doesn't know how to make any good decisions. And then she like does the ultimate dick move of kissing Mako in front of his brother, who up until that point really liked her and was like, you know, taking her out on dates and stuff.
Oh, I've never seen someone Rastana like that. You are one of a kind, Kora.
I think they went a little too hard into like her making a lot of mistakes because that was genuinely kind of mean what she did. But then the worst part about it is they play it off as a joke. Literally, Bolin sees her kissing Mako as he's holding the flower in his hand. It's like one of the most heartbreaking scenes to watch. And then they do this.
Bolin, this isn't what you think.
And I think this is a really bad sign. When a writer is not confident enough in their material to take it seriously, they start making jokes. They start to look at it and go, oh, you know, this scene is so tense and it's so uncomfortable. Oh, here's a joke.
I really owe you one. I mean, before I met Tony.
And it doesn't make the writing good, it just makes it more awkward. Because the following scenes are all like this.
You're not my brother. You're a brother betrayer. The only one I can trust anymore is Papu. Papu. Put me down!
And then the apology that Korra gives him is like pathetic. She's just like, hey, sorry I kissed your brother. And like, really? That's it? Dude, Bolin was, he was a champ this whole time.
You're the smartest, funniest, toughest, buffest, talentedest, incrediblest girl in the world.
You really feel that way about me?
I felt that way since the moment I saw you. Trust me, I know we're gonna have so much fun together.
You know what? I could use some fun. Okay, sure.
Yes! Who's the luckiest guy in the world? Right here, Bolin!
He was a genuine person who wanted to go out with her and like thought that they had a real connection, and she fucking stabbed him in the back, and then this is the thing we get for it.
I love you too.
And it kind of sucks. It's like, dude, writers, what the hell? Granted, Korra doesn't owe Bolin anything, but it was just kind of like, that was the worst way she could have handled it. Now, the next category of what I don't like are the constant references to Avatar The Last Airbender. Sometimes when I compare this show to Avatar The Last Airbender, people will tell me, they're like, yeah, that's not fair. You can't compare Legend of Korra to the Avatar The Last Airbender. I can absolutely compare them. If the show is going to make constant references back to the previous show to be like, hey, remember that show that you guys love? We're also that show. Then I'm going to compare it because the show is comparing itself to the other show.
This match is brought to you by our sponsor, Flamio Instant Noodle.
Ironically, I hired a guy with a similar ability to kill the Avatar myself once. Didn't work.
I am Zhao the Conqueror. I am the Moon Slayer. I will capture the Avatar.
What is the little girl going to teach Wan Chi Tong? He who knows 10,000 things.
A picture for my wall of avatars?
We have frozen Mr. Ganlon's assets and are closing Cabbage Corp.
No! Not my Cabbage Corp!
One of the worst references they make is when you see the flashback of Councilman Sokka, and Councilman Sokka is making a case in front of like the Supreme Court of Republic City or whatever, and he says, my trusty boomerang.
I once bested a man with my trusty boomerang, trusty boomerang, trusty boomerang.
Like, really, dude? You're not even gonna try to make him sound like Sokka? And also, saying that line is like the equivalent of him turning to the camera and winking. It's so freaking bad. It's time for a little mini game. We're gonna play which character is Iman's least favorite character in Legend of Korra. If your answer was Milo, you're wrong. We'll get to Toph later. Ikki and Milo, they suck. Okay, I'm just gonna flat out say it.
Brendan, you look old. How old are you? And why is it so cold in the South Pole? Can we make a campfire and all huddle around it and tell scary stories and make snowmen?
I hate them, and I feel like they're the two children characters they put in to try to make the show appeal to children.
I got a poo. Really bad.
Like, you know the two possums in Ice Age? I feel like they're that, and it's like, those possums fucking suck.
Hey, we're not dead.
And I don't think any children actually like the whole annoying little tiny guys who are like, throughout the whole show, and if there are any little kids who like that, can you please stop existing? By the way, Milo is a reference to an old Japanese cartoon called Crayon Shinchan. You can tell because he has the same shaved head, eyebrows, and the color scheme as Shinchan. And one of the jokes in Shinchan is that Shinchan farts a lot, and that's what Milo does. He farts on people.
Phase 5 theory!
You know which show never relied on fart jokes? Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know which show has fart jokes? Legend of Korra.
Yeah, let's do it!
I feel so bad for whatever animator had to animate a small child farting on an adult's face. And that was what their contribution to the animation industry was. A kid farting on a guy's face. Another bad character was Aang.
Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't get involved. But if what those victims said is true, we're not dealing with a normal criminal. Toph, I'm 40 years old. You think you can stop with the nicknames?
And Toph. But like I said, we'll get to Toph.
Oh, and I also hate Varrick.
Hand me the thing! Not the thing! Do the thing! Do the thing! You did the thing! Do the thing!
Will you do the thing? You may now do the thing.
I like waffles. Derp. I'm like the most random person ever. Like, I'm like the king of randomness.
It's just the fact that he's like a billionaire, and I don't know what it was about like that time, but they were trying to make us think that like billionaires are cool.
Mr. Musk, how are you?
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
Those Merlin engines are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, good idea for an electric jet.
And they're not, and he sucks, so.
Hey, another thing I don't like about the show is how plot heavy the show is for no reason. I think you can tell this show is so focused on the plot and not at all focused on its characters, because by the time you get to like season 3, you see the Avatar group come together and they just have like no chemistry whatsoever.
Where's Mako?
Oh, you mean the brooding teenager? He's staying at the police station.
Still?
I told him Tenzin invited us to stay here since our apartment is a vine habitat now, but he said he had to focus on work.
All their dialogue is basically things that they're saying to get to the next plot point.
But I'm back now. And I want to know everything about what's been going on with you two.
I went to visit my father for the first time.
You sure you can trust him?
You think I don't know what my own father is capable of? You don't get to disappear for 3 years and then act like you know what's best for me.
It just sucks because, like, when you look at the first Avatar group, you see a group of friends. Or even more than that, you see a family.
Sokka, the arrow was on Appa's head.
This is his head.
Why are feet coming out of it?
Those are his horns. I haven't seen him in a while, okay?
It looks just like him to me.
Thank you. I worked really...
I see these guys and I'm like, what do they have in common again?
How do you know for sure he's here?
I don't, but I had a feeling, okay?
And I'm just supposed to trust your Avatar feelings?
You wouldn't have to if you had guarded the prince like you were supposed to.
Oh, so it's my fault Wu disappeared.
A good example is there's this scene in season 3 of Avatar: The Last Airbender where the Avatar group is talking about whether or not they should let Zuko into their group.
This is just like when we were in prison together in Ba Sing Se. He starts talking about his mother and making it seem like he's an actual human being with feelings.
He wants you to trust him and feel sorry for him, so you let your guard down, then he strikes.
And it's a really interesting conversation. The characters are all talking for like 2-3 minutes straight, which is, in the film world, that is an eternity of dialogue. But every time you're watching them talk, it's like really interesting. They go back and forth and they talk about like, should we let Zuko in the group? And they bring their own experiences to it. Katara is like, I almost trusted him one time and he stabbed us in the back.
I did feel sorry for him. I felt like he was really confused and hurt. But obviously, when the time came, he made his choice. And we paid the price. We can't trust him.
And you know, Aang was like, he actually saved me.
I kind of have a confession to make. Remember when you two were sick and I got captured by Zhao? When Zhao had me chained up, it was Zuko who came in and got me out. He risked his life to save me.
Toph was like, look, I don't know him as well as you guys. From what I've seen, he doesn't seem too bad.
I'm just saying that considering his messed up family and how he was raised, he could have turned out a lot worse.
They're all talking about that for a while, and there's just so much like history and chemistry.
Easy for you to say. You weren't there when he had us attacked by pirates.
Or when he burned down Kyoshi Island.
Or when he tried to capture me at the fire temple.
I could listen to these characters just talk for 3 minutes straight, and the scene is interesting the entire time.
Why would you even try to defend him?
Because, Katara, you're all ignoring one crucial fact. Aang needs a firebending teacher. We can't think of a single person in the world to do the job. Now one shows up on a silver platter, and you won't even think about it?
Usually in a movie that would be boring as hell and you're just watching these characters just blah blah blah, but they managed to pull it off really well because there's so much dynamic in these characters.
Remember when you two were sick and I got captured by Zhao?
And you made us suck on frozen frogs? How could I forget? I had a wart on the flap that hangs down from the back of my throat for a month.
Sokka, I looked at it and told you there was nothing there.
I could feel it! It's my throat hole flap!
In the Avatar group, every time they talk, I just...
How do you know where Wu is just by touching some spirit vines?
I learned how to connect to people's energy through them.
Who taught you that?
Lynn's mom. Not exactly what I imagined for our first day that back place together. is like one giant spirit wild. Get those suits working as soon as you can. The rest of us will just have to face the fear on our own.
It's just super ironic because there's obviously someone who really likes Ghibli movies on the staff because there's so many references to Ghibli throughout the entire thing. And a lot of non-American movies, the whole point of some of those movies is to make you feel a certain way through the vibe of the movie. Like there are parts in Miyazaki films where nobody is talking for like 30 seconds straight and you're just watching beautiful clouds and grass and things flowing and beautiful people looking at each other. And it just gives you this feeling of like, you know, no words were spoken, but this scene is really powerful. And I feel like in Western cinema, most of our films are predominated with like super snappy comebacks and everyone being sarcastic all the time.
Just can't seem to miss.
Well, first time for everything.
There's even a part where Bolin and Mako find their family, and you're like, oh my god, the 2 orphan kids who have been looking for their family for so long finally found their family, and when they reunite, the family is legit like, hey, this is the next part of the plot. You gotta go here.
They say the Earth Queen's locking all the airbenders up somewhere and using them for experiments.
And you're like, what? What about who are you? Like, what about the connection that you guys are gonna have for the rest of your life? They're just like, you gotta go here to the Earth Kingdom thing, here's the next plot part. And I would be okay with that if the plot was super good, but
how are we supposed to get inside?
I think I can add an electrical element to the welding torch on your suit and convert it into a plasma saw.
You know what I just heard? Blah blah spiritual mumbo jumbo blah blah something about space.
I'm sorry, half the time it's not good.
Not these mecha tanks again.
Why would you replace the bending with robots and lasers? That would be like in Harry Potter, they're like, we're not gonna do magic anymore. Now this show is about basketball. But before we get to Toph, let's play another minigame. It's which character is Iman's favorite character in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Okay, if your answer was Toph, you're wrong. My favorite character is Zuko. But Toph is a great example of how much the writers of Legend of Korra don't understand the source material of where it came from. Toph is like the amalgamation of how little fictional integrity Legend of Korra has and how badly it can ruin your show because they just don't know what to do with these characters. First of all, they made her a cop. What?
Yeah, let's break some rules!
That would be like if I became a cop, and she's not even like a good cop. She's like whitewashing her daughter's crime.
Lynn, give me the arrest report. Mom, what are you doing? You can't cover this up. There were witnesses. I'm the chief of police. I can't have a daughter in jail.
What? Toph? This is the person that we all know and have come to see the progression of throughout the entire show, and she's doing like really crappy political things like whitewashing her family's crimes? Who are you? And then the worst part is that when she shows up in season 4, she's like the same Toph.
Of all the avatars I've worked with, you're by far the worst. I know that's only one other avatar, but still.
I thought Beifong was grumpy.
I'm the original Beifong.
No. Okay, the show wants Toph to be the same exact Toph, but also different Toph at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And this is the final piece of why she's so bad. She shows up and like, look at her. Okay, at least Zuko looks different. He looks like it's been 80 years. With Toph, it's like, she's the same and they didn't change her at all. Why? Because the show wants you to remember when it was a better show. They wanted you as an audience to remember the moment exactly where you left off of Toph from Avatar: Last Airbender in hopes that it'll make the show good. She doesn't even do anything. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, when they needed an old guy to help them and they went to Iroh, he told them something that only he can tell them. Only his experiences are the things that helps them in that situation. There's that scene where Aang is like, hey, I chose, to come here and to save Katara rather than have all the cosmic energy in the world. And then Iroh goes, hey, that's okay, man. You don't have to worry too much about it. Power and all the things are overrated. I think love between people is the best thing you can choose because he was there. He was conquering Ba Sing Se. He had all that power in his hands, but it didn't matter because it didn't help him save his son. The advice he's giving Aang actually makes fucking sense. But Toph is just like, hey, metal bend the thing out of yourself. Which, like, she doesn't even teach her how to metal bend. Her kids are the ones that teaches Korra how to metal bend. Toph could have not showed up at all, and it wouldn't have made a freaking difference.
So, what's the plan for today?
You're looking at it.
We didn't do anything yesterday, or the day before that.
The world needs me.
Get over yourself. The world doesn't need you one bit.
I've just been thinking about something Toph said. She told me that the world doesn't need me, and it's basically pointless to try to stop Kuvira.
Previously on Avatar.
Also not going to talk about season 2 of Legend of Korra. We all know season 2 is bad. Everybody knows season 2 is the bad. It's like the Spider-Man 3 of the Legend of Korra season. I'm gonna talk about season 2 now. Where do I start with season 2? It's the worst fucking dog shit season of television I've probably ever watched in my entire life. This is not a very hot take because a lot of people think this. I think season 2 of Legend of Korra is worse than the M. Night Shyamalan live action movie. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And here's why. The M. Night Shyamalan movie, as bad as it was, it didn't affect anything, okay? It didn't affect Avatar at all. Season 2 Legend of Korra changed the entire scope of how we look at Avatar The Last Airbender. The characters all suck in it because they have to backtrack their character arcs because, like I said, Nickelodeon screwed over the writers and they made the writers fork over another season when they didn't have any material. So the writers had to basically do the same arcs again with the characters. So they revert Korra back to being this angry, aggressive, terrible human being.
You ratted me out to the president?
Kora, let me explain.
And they redo that plot line and it's like, dude, you're just making her look worse. And what do you do when you have bad heroes? Well, you do what season 3 did and you make interesting villains, but even the villain freaking sucks in this. Unalaq shows up and Korra's all like, hey, I'm Kora, what's your name? And then Unalaq's all like,
this world is imperfect.
What?
If only I could wipe away the impurities.
Is anybody else listening to
and
this?
make it as beautiful as me.
Lysanderoth, you were behind all this?
Yes, it was I. My machinations lay undetected for years, for I'm a master of deception.
And you know what his grand plan is? You know what his scheme is? The plot of the whole season 2 is that he's gonna become the Dark Avatar. That's like literally something that like a 12-year-old would make on like Wattpad or something, of like someone becoming the Dark Avatar and being like the edgy version of the, like making an OC of their Dark Avatar character. And I think the worst thing about season 2 is they just completely shatter the world building of the entire show, of both Legend of Korra and Avatar The Last Airbender. The world of Avatar The Last Airbender is obviously based off a lot of like mostly Chinese, but also a lot of Asian mythology. You're supposed to kind of not really understand how it works. Think the spirit world for a second. The spirit world is this spirit world, and the way you cross over into it is nobody knows how. Sometimes the spirits just appear in the real life. Sometimes the avatar just meditates and then ends up in the spirit world. Sometimes you freaking die and then you're in the spirit world, and it's like supposed to be this mysterious thing that you're not supposed to understand because it's so like mythical and like marvelous that you can't completely comprehend it. And that's the appeal of the show. The bending is like they learn from the moon showed them how to push and pull the waters. The moon did not actually come down from where it was and walk around and go, here, you gotta use your wrists. Use your wrists to push the water. It didn't do that. It like it's a myth. It's a legend. You're not supposed. It's like artistic. Or the Badger moles didn't actually go, here, when you're earthbending, make sure you get like a really good horse stance and like, you know, you snap your wrists. Like, no, it's a metaphor. But in Legend of Korra, they undo all of that. They were like, oh, the spirit world, you can actually open a portal to go into it. And when you open this portal at this specific time with these formulas, then you can cross over into the spirit world. And it's like, thanks for taking all that mysticism and making it into sci-fi. There's nothing wrong with sci-fi, but this is Avatar and it's not supposed to be scientific. Or they show how everyone learned the bending, and it turns out that they didn't actually learn it from the dragons didn't actually teach firebending to the firebenders. The lion turtle just goes up to you and goes bzz, and then you know how to firebend, and it's like, great, thanks for taking all that and making it dumb and boring. And you could argue, wait, the dragon actually did teach him firebending because look, it taught him the dancing dragon. And no, that's not what the original show meant. The original show meant that they actually learned to shoot fire from their hands from the dragons. The world building in Legend of Korra is like, okay, imagine you go to a magic show and you see the magician go like whoosh, and he does his trick of like someone floats in the air and then they spin them around or something, right? Legend of Korra is like that one guy at the magic show who's like, no, that's not real magic. He's using strings. Or no, that's not, a person's not being cut in half. It's actually a mirror. And it's like, dude, Wow, you figured out that the magician is not using real magic? Oh my god, you must be so smart. It's like, why would you ruin the fun of everything and point out like, oh, this is like that? You idiot, you fool, you absolute buffoon. And I hate when people do this. I hate when people take fun and they make it unfun. They take all the cool bending and all the cool mysticism shit that Avatar had and they're like, let me explain to you how this actually works. Shut the fuck up. And why all the robots, all right, I get it. I get why people like Korra. You know, it's a continuation of a show that a lot of people really, really love. In 2020, when the quarantine happened, Avatar The Last Airbender came back. When the world was shut down and needed Avatar The Last Airbender the most, the world got Avatar The Last Airbender. And I think Korra's character arc is something that's not talked a lot about. Essentially, she starts out as this person who doesn't do very well and learns to, through making a lot of terrible mistakes, learns how to eventually do it better. And that's the point of life, is not to win, but to do better a little bit each time. I think another reason why a lot of people like the show, this is one of the first cartoons that ever had two girls just look lovingly into each other's eyes as the show finished. And I will say the show has a lot of effort put into it. I'm not saying that the writers didn't try their best, because they absolutely tried their best. Nickelodeon screwed them over and made them make a season 2 when they had nothing to give. And, you know, I saw this quote recently that said, if you're tired and you're wiped out and you only have 20% of yourself and you give 20%, then technically you gave 100%. And it's like, yeah, the writers gave 100% into Legend of Korra. And they really tried to make a good show despite all the network sabotage and all the things that were fighting back against them. They did it and they made it. So I get it. And you know, the animation's good. So I get why people like the show. It's just not good enough for me, and I don't enjoy watching it. And so, you know, if you like The Legend of Korra, that's fine. That's, you know, you're entitled to your stupid opinion. And not because I think the show is bad. I think it's because I hold the standard of Avatar so high. Like, I don't even like the Avatar The Last Airbender comic book, because that's how subpar I think everything else is compared to the show. And I know that sounds really closed-minded, but it's not, because I've made comic books. Here's the thing, is that these comics, I've read them, they're really good. They have some of the best storylines I've ever seen. Like, Smoke and Shadow deals with all like the politics of rebuilding a nation afterwards, and how some nations are like, we don't want to be rebuilt, we want to stay the Fire Nation. And other people are like, no, you can't be a Fire Nation colony. You guys are Earth citizens. And then some of them are like, but we've been living here for like 100 years. Like, we can't just change back to how it was 100 years ago. And there's all this political intrigue. It's just, I don't like them, because look how blah it looks. If I asked you who the star of Avatar The Last Airbender is, what would you say? I think you would say Aang. Some people would say, no, the star, the protagonist, is Zuko. Some people might even say, well, you know, Katara tells it from her point of view, so maybe the main character is Katara. I think the star of Avatar The Last Airbender is the very unique style of bending and on-camera fighting that they bring to the audience. This kind of kung fu element fighting doesn't exist anywhere else in any other show. And you can argue like, well, you know, Dragon Ball and Naruto, they do stuff that it's like, yeah, but they don't do it like this. This is specifically, the animators took the time and the effort to make it look like, and to time it exactly like an old kung fu movie, like a Shaw Brothers movie. And like, they do a lot of the fighting with like elements and fire and water, but a lot of it is based off of like trickery and like redirecting your opponent and having really interesting set pieces to fight alongside. And in the comic books, it's just one panel. It's just a fire blast, and that's it. That's all we get. And no matter how good the story is, it doesn't make me feel good about reading it at all. It's not that I don't like The Legend of Korra specifically, it's that I don't like anything that came after Avatar at all. This is why I'm not watching the live action version. This is why I don't like the little mini cartoon they came out with. I just don't like any of it, because none of it has ever been as good as Avatar The Last Airbender, and that's just where my standards are. So there we go. I don't know how to end this video. Hey, Emon here. Well, I figured out how to end the video, But before I do that, I wanted to talk about one character that I kept forgetting to talk about throughout the entirety of this video. You guys probably already noticed this person's part of the main Korra friend group. I keep forgetting to talk about Asami. Asami is great, and what's impressive about her is that she's set up to be the romantic rival of Korra, but she's extremely difficult to dislike. The name Sato Asami is a Japanese name, and her dad Hiroshi is, well, I mean, that's what their names were based off of. You know, even Hiroshi Sato makes he makes cars. He's like a Japanese car guy, Toyota or Honda or something. But in Avatar, there are other characters that are also Japanese, and it's all the characters that are from Kyoshi Island, because Kyoshi is an island, which is supposed to be Japan. Suki is a Japanese name. Suki means like, and she's the first girl that Sokka likes, right? Haha. The old man on Kyoshi's name is Oyaji. Oyaji means old man in Japanese. You know, the unagi? Unagi means eel. And I just feel like there was a really missed opportunity with Asami to be from Kyoshi Island because of given her name. And that would have been a really good explanation to why she whoops so much ass, is that she used to be a Kyoshi warrior. Because in the show, they just explain how she whoops ass by just being like her. She's all like, oh, my dad put me in self-defense classes since I was like this tall.
I mean, I've been in self-defense classes since I was this high.
Which is a really, really lazy way to write especially female characters. And I think what would have been cool if she was from Kyoshi was that it would explain not only how she whoops so much ass, but also at the end of, you know, Legend of Korra, Korra and Asami fall in love. And I think it would have been really thematic that Korra, the avatar that resembles Kyoshi the most, falls in love with someone from Kyoshi Island. And again, it's really snarky of me to rewrite something, because of course I can take something that someone else made and then rewrite it to be better when they've already done all the work. Also, in the new Netflix live action Avatar, I haven't watched it. I'm never going to watch it. But the girl who plays Suki is not Japanese. And that's fine, because the show is mostly based off of Chinese mythology, but there's still some Japanese, Inuits, even Indian. There's like other Asian races mixed in there. I also think there are European people in Avatar. You cannot tell me that Zhao is not a white guy. Suki was kind of like Japanese representation for me, and I'm a little bit bummed that they didn't cast someone Japanese, which kind of makes me feel like, I hate to say this, but it kind of makes me feel like they didn't really care about Asian representation, because they made this show and a lot of Asian people were happy about it because, oh yay, more Asian people having their own thing is nice. But I feel like if they really considered that, they would have casted Suki to be someone Japanese. I don't know. It just feels kind of like fake. But this is how I'm going to end the video. Speaking of new Avatar shows, there's a new Avatar show coming up, which is the reincarnation after Korra. I've been burned too many times as an Avatar fan by shows and remakes and reboots after the Avatar The Last Airbender show. And I know that sounds close-minded, and I get that, but also, have y'all ever heard of moving on? Move on to something new. Avatar hasn't been good since the first show, yet people keep trying. Just let it go. Just, if you're really an Avatar fan, then do what the philosophy of the show is telling you. Embrace change and freedom and move on to something new. And I know that sounds close-minded because I don't like the new shows and I only really like the old show. And I want to stick to what's old and not what's new. But I made a whole fucking 40-minute video about the topic. I think I've exposed myself well enough to this to have a real opinion. And I think it's never just been as good as the first, like not even close. Go watch something new. Just go watch something new. Go watch Prison School. I never thought I would like an anime like this. When my friend first suggested it to me, I was like, okay, it sounds stupid and like a fun time. Literally one of the best anime I've ever watched. Ready? Go! Like, probably now in my top 5 anime. This entire video, it was a 40-minute setup to Prison School. This is a Prison School video. Okay, bye.